Welcome to the Mad Ron podcast. Where did it all go wrong with me, Mad Ron? I'm currently locked up. I only get one phone call a week. I've decided to use it to recruit for my gang. Why? Well, I need people working for me on the outside while I'm banged up. Obviously, such a blatant approach would be frowned upon by the authorities, so I've disguised it all up as a podcast. But I've been asking myself a few questions, like where are we going to get our next generation of criminals from? I think we need to turn to our comedy community. Comedians are used to working alone at night and quite often enter a room through a curtain. So I've got a few candidates lined up. Let's see if they've got any potential, and who knows, if it goes well, they could be sharing a cell with me. So in these modern times, getting a confession is difficult. Ask a question, flick the switch, go to the garage, reset the breaker, back into the house, ask another question, reset the breaker. Getting any kind of information can take days. However, I may have a solution if I can recruit today's guest, Harry Stachini. Harry's crowd work skills have amassed millions of views on social media. His warm and friendly stage presence regularly extracts way too much information from audience members, which leads to hilarious clips which he publishes on social media. Take a look at his TikTok. Harry is a UK comedian, comedy circuit regular, and even has performed in Europe and Asia, which probably are comedy clubs up north. With 2 Edinburgh solo runs under his belt, the 2019 sold out Tigers Don't Cry and 2023 Work in Progress Grenade, which was recorded as a stand-up special. He's no stranger to podcasts, hosting the Best Comedy nominated The Staff Room, where teachers share anonymous stories from the classroom. Harry, welcome. Harry, I believe when you're not doing comedy, you like to shout at parked cars. When did you realise that you had a talent for this?
Shouting at parked cars?
Yeah.
I don't know where you got that from, but yeah. I would say, where did we pick that up from?
It's just common knowledge on the circuit.
Oh, right, shouting at parked cars, yeah. I find they're easy to shout at the moving ones, you know what I mean? Because they're just there, aren't they? Depending on where they're parked as well, that's another thing. But yeah, I'm surprised that's got out. I try to keep that under wraps as much as possible.
Well, it's not difficult, is it, to for people to find out? To be honest, it's like a very audible thing, and I've heard some of you shouting is quite loud, so quite impressive. But yeah, fine. We'll move on from that then. So you host and produce a podcast called All Made Up.
Yes.
Yeah. Right? Or have you just invented that?
So it's me and Lewis Coleman, Ben Hart, all comedians. We do the podcast, and it's like a storytelling podcast. So it's got a theme in a sense where if you were the guest, you join us in the writers' room, and we create a story out of nothing in the space of about half an hour. So your start might be like, let's say you're the character. You eat an out-of-date meal deal. Realise 2 days later you can read people's minds. And then the end of the story, the last line we got to finish on would be like, the doctor said it had to be cut off. And we got half an hour to get from A to B. So it's a writer's room, but we've been doing it for just over a year now and taking it to the Fringe this summer.
That sounds great. And the other podcast, of course, is The Staff Room, teachers sharing anonymous stories from the classroom. So do you want to talk about that for a little bit? Just tell us about that.
Yeah, by all means. The Staff Room was kind of like the first pod I ever launched, and it was off the back of COVID. I was like, I think there's something I could do with this. And it's great because you're getting all these anonymous stories coming from teachers, and teachers, I find, when they know there's they've got secrecy, they will tell you everything, that goes on in schools, which from an outside perspective, I think everyone thinks their kid's a little darling when they go into school. And they don't do anything wrong, but the reality is that's not the case. Kids are kids. So I think we had about 20 odd episodes on that. I had a teacher who I interviewed who had been basically fired as a result of a blog that was anonymous, but he got found out, and he was talking about life in the school. And I wanted the podcast to be like a window into an honest world of what it is to be a teacher. And I definitely got that with the stories that I had. The only issue is, obviously, as stories start to kind of like dry up and whatnot, I was like, I'd love to do it week on week, but I'm not going to make things up for the sake of it. But it was great. Some of the stories you got told, and it's one of them where after I finish gigs, I'll get teachers telling me stuff, and I'm like, send it to the podcast, you know. But it's one of them where I think some people think, oh, well, I get myself in trouble. Thankfully, no one has been fired. I interviewed someone that was fired, but that was now to do with me.
Mm. Yeah, kids can basically be little shits, can't they? So I'm not surprised there was a bit of mileage in that podcast, to be honest. So
Yeah.
good stuff. So why don't we get into your background, understand a bit about the years that made you the person you are today, and see whether there's any potential with yourself, to be honest. So when was the first time you ever remember doing something naughty?
Right, I saw this earlier and I thought about this. I was probably about year 6. So what's that, 10, 11? And I was with a friend of mine who I'm not going to say his name, but he nicked a nudie bag from a magazine from a shop, Top Shelf, and I remember running out the shop I was waiting outside, and he ran out the shop, and we had this magazine, and we were like just absolutely over the moon that we had this nudie mag, and neither of us knew what to do with it. You know what I mean? We were like, does it stay at yours? Does it stay at mine? But we're like running, almost holding the magazine either side. And then we'd have a little browse, and then we were like, right, we've both got to go home here. So what's the crack? And we decided that it would be the right decision to hide it under a pile of leaves in a park. I didn't think it through, obviously, because yeah, well, you know what I mean. It's not waterproof, is it? So we came back to just paper mache tits, and we were deeply let down. But yeah, I remember that as a kid, and knowing it was wrong, but it was like two cheeky lads that we thought this would be a laugh, and yeah, it wouldn't say ended in tears, but you know, I've not nicked you know, a nudie mag since then, and you know what I mean, like a girly mag, that type of thing.
Well, I was in a shop once, and this kid walked in. He was about 8, and this is when I was probably about 14, 15. This kid walked in. He was about 10, 11, and he had an envelope with a letter in it that he gave to the shopkeeper, and said, "This is from my dad. Can you read it, please?" So, read it, and basically it said on the letter, it was, "I'm stuck in bed. Please, can I have my regular magazine?" Da, da, da. And he handed over a copy of Fiesta or whatever it was
Yeah.
to this kid in a brown bag, and the kid walked out and back home with this magazine. I was just like, unbelievable. But
Yeah,
that was in the days where they had cigarette vending machines outside. So
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It's like stuff like that now. It's on your phone, isn't it? Everyone just accesses it that way. But the balls to go into a shop and buy a porno mag, you've got to have some confidence.
yeah, so it's basically a bit of a knocker and run incident, was it? So,
Yeah, I suppose in a way.
so what's the first thing you got into trouble for? Did you get into trouble for that?
No, I think we didn't get found out. What did I get in trouble for? As I'd say, as a kid at home, I wasn't massively troublesome. There's like a thing where I'd eat food and then deny eating it. You know what I mean? But because we had a big family, if I ate everyone's breakfast and then they'd be like, "Where's it gone?" I'd be like, "I haven't had it," but I could have, you know, chocolate croissant all around my chops, and I'd be denying it until, you know, the sun went down. But even in school and stuff like that, I wouldn't necessarily say I knew where the line was. I was cheeky, you know. I liked having a laugh, but I was more like a talker. So I'd always be sat. I was bottom set for everything. So I had lads who were sat around me who were, yeah, proper weapons at times. So I'd always get told off for chatting, and then I'd get moved to the front of the class. But I'd just end up having to chat to the teacher. But first thing I proper got like a slap on the wrist for, I can't think of anything that was like. I've had bollockings for playing bad at footy, but you know, never for you know, doing like serious damage or anything like that.
What's the biggest lie you've ever told? The stuff that you've made up then to get out of a problem?
Right, I'd say probably about 7 years ago. Me nana was in hospital, right? And me nana, she's not with me now. Well, she's not with anyone now. She's dead. But she was known as Little Nana, right? Because she was like 6 stone, piss wet through. She was tiny, and she went into hospital, say on a Monday, because she'd lost a bit of weight, and they were going to keep her in, fatten her up, send her back out. And my girlfriend at the time had said, "Oh, how's your nana getting on?" And this is like come the Wednesday, and I'd said, well, I don't know why. It kind of came out, but you know what I mean. Started telling a bit of a fib. I said, yeah, well, she's doing all right. I said, she's not put back on all the weight though, so they're basically gonna put her on a state of the art weight program. And she's like, all right, what do you mean by that? I said, well, she has to get little like lead bean bags put in the pockets of her jacket, and I said it'll just compensate for the weight she's lost. And I said it's also a good way for her to like build up her strength and all the rest of it. She's like, that can't be right. That's no one. That's not a thing. And I was like, no. I said it's brand new. That's the thing. It's they're just trying it out for the first time. And she was skeptical, right? But I'd obviously shared this with my family then, and they're like, that's hilarious, So I started roping in my sister, my dad, my mum, and all the rest of it. And she'd say like, "Oh, how's your nana getting on?" And I'd tell you, yeah, she gone back 6 weeks ago, and she got a bit more weight, so she got like this lead-lined scarf, gloves, and she at the time, my girlfriend, used to design like lady garments, like contour fashion, Brownie knickers and that. And it was coming up to Christmas, and she was like, I was thinking maybe I could like, by this point she's fully invested in it. She was like, I was thinking, I could like maybe design some sort of garment where they could put the bean bags in. And yeah, I had to tell her, I was like, it's all complete bollocks, She did raise an eyebrow when I said about how windy it was in Manchester, and I was like, they're having to time when they release her because otherwise she's going to get blown like a crisp packet down the street. But I think it helped with the fact that all my family were like, oh yeah, that's just like how it is. But yeah, harmless lie, but I enjoyed it it went on for about 9 months.
So what I'm interested here is the fact that she was diagnosed with needing fattening up.
Yeah.
Is that what you do then? So if you need a meal when you're up north, you just go to the doctors and they shove you in the hospital.
Yeah, you got free school meals in the NHS, and that's how it works. She had a packet of Monster Munch.
Dinner, you have to go into hospital for it, do you?
Yeah, precisely. You know what I mean? She had a little bit of scram, and then she was on her way. But it's one of them where it's like she used to smoke half a cigarette. She'd have half in the morning, then cut the end off, and then finish the rest in the evening. So she lived on like, well, yeah, scotch and fags. It was a strong woman.
Now, we're just going to take a short break to hear from of our sponsors, so we'll be right back in about 2 minutes.
The cost of living is soaring. It can be difficult to find money to feed your elderly relatives. They shouldn't be fed leftovers. Here at Dodgy Doctors, we can get them into a nearby hospital to be fattened up. Please be aware, the cost of visiting may exceed the cost of food after car park charges and petrol.
So welcome back to Where Did It All Go Wrong with me, Mad Ron. All of that stuff sounded like a bunch of old tot. I wouldn't bother buying it. But if you just join us, I'm currently banged up in HMP Nettlebed and using my one weekly phone call to recruit comedians to help me out on the outside and packaging it all up as a podcast to get away with it. So my guest today is Harry Stachini. We've been talking about his upcoming Edinburgh show. We'll move on to that, actually. Let's talk about that. You did Work in Progress last year on a show called Grenade.
Yeah.
That's right. And then you took it down to Manchester, did 2 shows in Manchester, recorded one of them as a special. Is Grenade the show you're going to be taking back up to Edinburgh this year?
Yeah, Grenade 2.0, if you will. I did 2 weeks of it last year at the Waverley Bar, just kind of, playing around with it and getting it ready for recording I was doing in August, right at the end of the month. And I had a really good time with it, but it was in a little 50-seater. It was in the same room that Billy Connolly did his first ever hour in Edinburgh. So lovely little space.
Upstairs in the Waverley Bar.
Precisely, yeah. But the stage is it's like a little stamp, you know what I mean? It's really tiny. So I had a good time doing it, but my slot was at 2:45 every day. And comedians used to work in late in the evenings with crowds that are kind of boozed up, sometimes coked up, and it's a bit rowdy. As I was having people that just had the lunch. So having to be like, you're probably going to wear some naughty things, and there's daylight and all the rest of it. So to have the opportunity to go this year and do it at the Underbelly on Bristol Square, 5:45, proper venue, full month, The opportunity was kind of just too good to turn down. Because I'd had people say, you're going to take it on tour. And I was looking at doing that, but I couldn't quite make it work in the way that I wanted. So when my agent said, look, Edinburgh's on the cards, they want your show, I said, yeah, 100%, let's do it. So I'm buzzing, dead excited. Be nice to have a...
So it's called Grenade. It's not called Grenade because while you're performing it, you can hear a pin drop.
Oh, no. I've not heard that one. Usually I get people going, is it because it's like explosive comedy? I had a bit of kickback on the name, you know. My agent was saying to me about, he said, I just don't think it's funny, you know, the title of it. But the title for me is a metaphor for the show, you know. So without giving too much away, all I say is that a grenade is a problem in your life that you know you should be dealing with and you don't. And it's very easy to hold on to that and just, you know, conceal it, pretend it's all fine. Or you can pull the pin and decide, you know, what life's going to look like after. So the show, it's a good show. It's funny. It's about family, relationships, honesty. When I did it last year, I had a lot of people after the show coming up to me going, yeah, I think I've got a grenade. And I'm a bit like, right, okay. Because I think with stand-up, it's one of them, when you've opened up on stage in a way that's funny and people feel comfortable, they feel like they kind of know you. And then the conversations you have at the end with these people, you know nothing about them, but then they start to share in equal amount to what, you know, you've just done in some way. But you're a bit like, this dynamic here, like you know what I mean? You should be speaking to someone else but me about this. I appreciate it, but yeah, I think I'd go and have a chat with your wife. 5:45 every day of the run, Bristol Square on the belly. Come check it out. We've sold some tickets already, but yeah, air conditioned room as well. So you got that to look forward to.
Imagine you're invited onto Pro Celebrity Robbery as the pro criminal. Who would you be your ideal celebrity accomplice?
Ideal celebrity accomplice. I reckon I would want Harry Redknapp. Purely because he's got that, you know, like the little voice that it's got to be a little terrific little robbery. You know, I love the idea of him talking me through the plan of us doing a burglary or any type of crime. Like, you know, well, Nico's driving, we got Crouchy, Benjani. Yeah, Harry Redknapp. And he's not a straight shooter. Like, he knows some nifty fellas, and I'm pretty sure he avoids tax. So, yeah, Harry Redknapp, final answer. Because you could have him like dressed up as like an older man, you know, and that's disarming for people. You don't expect that, so maybe he could distract him and then
Dressed up as an older man. Dressed up as an older man, but
yeah,
he
well,
is
you
an
know what I
older
mean.
man.
He is an old man. I suppose it is attire, you know what I mean, a bit of tweed and stuff like that. But just that's disarming. People don't expect that.
Right, but he would be instantly recognisable, and the fact that you would be able to see him, yeah, okay, fine. If that's who you want, that's fine. So, if you were to create any new law that you could break but nobody else could, what would that be?
Any law that I could break but no one else could. Phew. My first thought, I thought of farting, and I just like, don't say that. I first thought I could break, but no one else could. Tax evasion. I've got to invent it. It's been invented, isn't it? I don't know. It's a difficult one. That. What would you have?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Really, with tax evasion, that's quite a good one, to be honest.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Death and taxes are a certainty, and if I've already got Redknapp on side, he can show me some of the, you know, the tricks and all the rest of it. So yeah, nobody wants to pay tax. So I don't either want to avoid tax or anyone that's caught pissing in a swimming pool is exiled.
Right. So you obviously do a bit of swimming, then, do you?
Yeah, I dabble.
Yeah.
I just yeah,
And you can't keep your mouth shut while you're doing it. So
well, I mean, yeah. Do they have a pool in the prison?
no, we can
No.
play pool, but not. There isn't
Yeah,
a pool.
no pool, but the
Yeah.
same level of scum, I imagine.
Which celebrity would you most like to burgle?
Right. Okay. The royal family.
Right, and what would you take from them?
I would go for like prized heirlooms, like the crown jewels. You know what I mean? The crown, something like that, where that is, it's not going to depreciate in value, and that is or like a piece of art, like the Mona Lisa, the Louvre. Not really
So what
celebrity, more a building.
would you sell it?
I'd ask for a ransom I'd be like, you can have it back for this price. And if that didn't work, I'd put it on Facebook Marketplace.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Anything else you think that they might have that you would want?
I'd want like blackmail, information like that. Hold people to ransom. I would love to know what the royal family have got on Prince Andrew that they can confirm.
Right. Or deny, which seems to be the case at the moment.
Yeah. Until I get my hands on that file, and next minute, my new house is Buckingham Palace.
So you've So you've gone into Buckingham Palace. You've nicked the crown jewels, which aren't in Buckingham Palace, by the way. They're in Tower of London. But
oh right,
you've
okay.
nicked some stuff. What would you leave as your calling card?
My calling card. I'd probably carve into. What would I leave my calling card? Yeah, I'd tag with a Sharpie on one of the oil paintings at Harry Stand Up. Follow if you wish, and hopefully gain a few more followers through that way.
Right, and you think there's a lot of people going to be in Buckingham Palace looking at this oil painting with at Harry Stand Up? Is it at Harry Stand Up?
At Harry Stand Up, yeah. I'd be putting it out there just to see. It'd be nice to see which royals are interested. But I don't know. In fact, I wouldn't want to leave anything. I'd be getting in touch with them. I'd want them to be wondering what's gone on here, who's done this, and then I pop up, a couple of weeks later saying, "Look, I've got it, and if you want it, it's going to cost this."
Well, we had somebody answer that question a little while ago that they would leave a samosa in place and a different samosa according to the robbery that they were doing and what they'd nicked. So it was either a vegetable or a meat, depending on the value of what they've stolen.
Yeah. Do you know what? The fact when you said a different samosa made, I was like, I think there's only two, veg and meat. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's classified as a veggie samosa crime and then a meat samosa crime.
And maybe you should categorise those, and we'll work on that and see what we can do. So yeah, I don't think any robbery involving the royal family would warrant a samosa calling card being left, but
if they deserve a meat one at the very least.
Yeah, everything would be meat. There'd be no question over that.
Yeah.
So if you're going to frame someone else for one of your crimes, who would it be?
What type of crime? Could it be like low level, high level? What we're talking? How long are they getting if they get found out?
So what about a crime? You name the crime, and you decide what they're, who's going to get the blame for it.
Who's going to get the blame?
So you nicked a, like, okay, let's start. You've nicked a nudie Meg, right?
Right.
You get caught. Who's going to get the blame for it?
Who's going to get the blame for this? As a 10-year-old boy, if that 10-year-old boy could be Piers Morgan, right? And if at the point he gets found out about this nudie mag, and in some way it just has a knock-on effect where he doesn't go into journalism. I'm not saying he has to get locked up, but I just don't want to see him. I just don't know that he exists at the same level he does now. Maybe he's just a car salesman, and he might be less of a dick if he was a car salesman. But the fact he's a journalist and it must be a persona he puts on because he's so unlikable. So yeah, man, be Piers Morgan as a 10-year-old boy caught with a nudie mag, and hopefully that sways him to, not be in front of the camera.
Right, and so okay, and you're caught speeding. Who would you blame for being caught speeding?
Can I have Piers Morgan once again? No, I would put for that one. I think Vladimir Putin. You know what I mean? I'm not overly political, but I think he needs 3 hours of his time wasted just so he can think, do you know what? It's probably not worth it doing all this stuff because, the man is interested, to say the least. My dad absolutely despises him. And, he's at war with the world. So, Putin.
Yeah, put him on a war awareness course or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Yeah, I'd put him on a war awareness course and then send him off to a gulag and see how he likes it.
So what's your next crime going to be and where is it going to take place?
My next crime? It's going to be at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival when I win best show. That's going to be the crime. No, my next crime. I would love to. I'd love to be good at fraud, just so I could buy a house without effectively having to spend my own money. I think practically, you know what I mean? I don't want the world. I just want comfort. So just a nice little 2-bed, you know what I mean? It could be a terrace, don't have to be a semi-detached. I'm not thinking, 185 grand, little loft conversion on it. That'll do me. So if I could fraud my way into that and, a decent interest rate, that would do me.
Right. Anything you want to ask me about the position at all?
I suppose, will I, when do I need to start?
Well, yeah. I've still got a few more candidates to look at, so we'll have to let you know. But anyway, well, thanks, Harry. It's been an interesting chat, and I'll get back to you if you've made it into the gang, and I'll send you a sign. So keep going to Tesco's and look out for a lamb madras with a used by date more than 3 days, and then you'll know that I want to contact you again.
Lamb madras, 3 days on it.
Yeah. Thanks, Harry. Nice to speak
Appreciate
to you.
your time.
Cheers.
Do you have one shoe and can't find its match? Maybe you nick one from outside a shop and don't know what to do with it. You can find its partner by joining Only Shoes today. Special introductory offer, £8.99 a month. Please note, no old Crocs allowed. Only Shoes. Why hop when you can walk?